What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist Josh Cribbs, Cleveland legend. If you want the best Browns content on YouTube, I'm told subscribe to DF Sports. Listen, you got to find out for yourself, but I was told, heard it to the grapevine. DF Sports is the way to go. All right, y'all go check it out. Go Dogs. Hoo, hoo, hoo.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dog Pound Pod. You might be thinking to yourself, what kind of weird book club Zoom meeting did I just click on? No, this is, in fact, the Dog Pound Pod. And you know me and Cam, as always. But joining us today, special guest from the Cleveland Pulse podcast, Jeff and Justin joining us today. So what's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you guys for having us. Derek, you came on our podcast last week, and it was a really good time getting to meet Cam for the first time. Looking forward to that. Yeah. And, coordinating things through you and Jeff has been great. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Derek, nice talking again. It's always a pleasure. Cam, nice to meet you.
You too, man.
Glad to reach out and find other people who share the same passion as us and, want to do collaborations like this. So, this should be awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah. So guys, take us into, for the viewers who maybe haven't seen you guys before, talk about your podcast and what you guys cover, when you started. Give me some info there.
Yeah. So originally this was kind of like part of my idea I started doing YouTube last year, started doing content. I'm really big into video games. So I started doing that on Twitch and all that. But, Corona hit, and then for 2 months, it was a solid whole lot of nothing for just what we were doing and everything. And so I came up with the idea of like just doing a podcast for the sake of podcasting. I love talking sports with my family members. We have a group message and everything that we go back and forth with. And I was trying to think of someone, because you can't really just do a whole lot by yourself. So I was trying to think of someone who, I could have a co-host with and talk, and have differing opinions with, because you don't really always want to have the same opinion as everyone else. And so me and Jeff, we're on two separate sides of the spectrum on a lot of different things. So I'm more of the football guy, and Jeff has transitioned really well into talking more about the Browns, because obviously they're the ones that are holding all the hype in Cleveland right now and everything, but he's way better about talking about basketball and baseball than I am. So he kind of equaled out what we would talk about with Cleveland sports in general. And that's what we based the podcast around. And so we did our first podcast June 15th. And then we launched our first episode on YouTube in September of 2020. September 2020. So we're almost coming up on a year now. And so it's been a fantastic thing. And Jeff has been taking over. He's been doing a lot of the social media stuff and just absolutely killing it.
What I think is funny is what I just think is interesting is so me and Justin, same high school, but we've always talked about this. We were always, we never really thought that the media surrounding Cleveland was that good. Derek, I know that you talk about this a lot. This is one of your big principles, but if someone doesn't think the media is very good, then they should do something to fix that or change that. So, that's what we decided upon. But what was interesting and what Justin was kind of relaying is that in high school, we both played basketball. When we were freshmen, we both played basketball. Justin was on the football team through the rest of his high school career, and I was on the baseball team through the rest of my high school career. So with the three Cleveland sports teams, we thought it would be a perfect blend and just a nice complement of opinions, ideas, styles, creativity. But it really has transitioned into mostly a Browns thing, just because that is what is holding the interest. Like he said, we try to cover the Cavs and the Indians, but there's really just not a whole lot there compared to how good the Browns were last year and just how good they should be in the future. But like he said, we made our own YouTube page, our own Cleveland Pulse YouTube page. That was January 1st of this year. So our own dedicated page, has only been up for not even 4 months. So it's a slow grind. It's a long process. We started with mainly podcasts, and now we're doing reaction videos, just other opinionated stuff, and probably getting into the summer months here, we're going to be ramping up our edits, making our quality just through the roof. I mean, we've only been doing it a year, he said, so still a lot to learn, but we're really excited to bring content to the community.
Yeah, and I found you guys talking about the Browns. Obviously, we did I guess, group podcast, if you want to call it that. Had a great time. Like I said, if you guys haven't seen that already, go check it out. You could, again, find them at the Cleveland Pulse podcast on YouTube, and check them out on social media as well, the Cleveland Pulse podcast. So let's get into some of the big news why we're here today. Free agency is still going on, but it has been quite the eventful week and a quarter, whatever. So the most recent news, Mr. Jadeveon Clowney in Cleveland yesterday, I guess had a good visit with the Browns. Now, he did leave with no contract. Fans are split. What do you guys think? Would you like him? Are you specific to like a certain number? What do you think about Jadeveon Clowney?
I think Jeff should start on this one. Oh, I'm sorry, Cam. Didn't mean to cut you off on that.
Oh, no problem, man. Well, what I kind of see it as, I mean, hey, we got one goal, and that's to win the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I will bring him in, good depth piece, bring him in rotational on the defensive line. And remember, you can't have too many defensive linemen because we've seen what happened last year with Miles going down. We need people to fill those holes that have experience as well. So I'll say bring him in.
I mean, I agree with that sentiment, and I'm gonna talk about a little discussion I got today. Like 7 a.m., I wake up, Twitter notification, and I responded to somebody else in the community on my personal Twitter page, and they were saying, talking about bringing Jadeveon in, and the guy, and I responded to him, said 5 year, we're $5 million 1 year deal. That's all I'm willing to give the guy. Somebody responded to me, oh, well, that's not much of an offer. Why would we meet with them if that would be our offer? And I said, dude, look, like we offered him reportedly $12 to $15 million range last year. And he said no. And I mean, I don't know the circumstances. I'm not going to put words or thoughts in the guy's, whatever was going through Clowney's head last year, but I felt disrespected when he didn't take our deal last year. I'm not sure about you guys. I thought we were the best offer, and I thought we were the best team. And he goes to Tennessee, and we blow the brakes off of Tennessee, whatever. I just thought that was
the best. That's the
dude. That is the
top.
best. And I'm not trying to take up too much time, but $5 million. People say, oh, $5 million. He's worth a lot more than $5 million. But I'm paying him $5 million, expecting him to play like 7 or 8 games. I know, like Cam said, you want people to be on your defensive line, but he's just injury prone. Like he's the walking injury bug. So I'm basically paying him for half a year. I think he's worth $10 million if he plays all 16 games.
Definitely agree with you, Jim.
Yeah, for me, I'm actually in the same ballpark with Jeff. I'm more about the stats that he's been putting up. He left the Texans with J.J. Watt being his running mate, and that's when his best stats came up in his career. In the past 2 years, he hasn't played full seasons. He's had multiple injuries, not putting up great numbers, and we've already signed Takk McKinley. But I'm more of a future guy, and Cam, I'm already going to disagree with you on one point. So my thing is with the cap rollover, you don't want to just be relevant for 1 year. It's not really that kind of like you make one big push, because obviously you see what Tampa Bay is doing and what Kansas City is doing. They retain guys year in and year out. Yeah. And so, you got this young core of guys who Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, who they already extended. All these players who are under the age of like 25 and 26, it's a young group. This is a group that could compete for years to come. And, with Kevin Stefanski getting his second year, we're in unprecedented territory with this team. And so for me, I'm more about, at this point, I'm satisfied with what's happened in free agency. If, Jadeveon wanted to come on a flight deal with what Jeff said, a year, $5 million, whatever it may be, I'd be cool with it. But at the same time, we have, my thinking is your first 3 picks in the draft should be guys that should come in and contend for starting roles. And I think a DN is going to end up being one of those 3 picks. So at this point, I'm okay with not taking Clowney if he wants more than what we're offering him. But at the same time, I would gladly accept him.
Definitely. So, can I get your take on Troy Hill? How do you see Troy Hill transitioning into this defense with Denzel Ward and they'll put in these guys that we have already.
Jeff, you want to hit this one first?
Yeah, I'll start off with this one because we were just talking about this. We ranked the top 5 signings. We just went with the top 5 that Andrew Berry's had this offseason. That's our most recent video. Like Derek said, you can find us at the Cleveland Pulse on YouTube. But kind of like to what you said, Cam, with defensive linemen and the landscape of how our roster is built, you really can't have too many cornerbacks. We saw it this year a lot. Denzel Ward is going to get hurt. He really just is. He plays with, it's not even that he is injury prone from what we've seen in the league, but it's really just how he plays. I mean, scrolling through Twitter again today, I see that play of him sliding underneath the guy's block to make the tackle.
Yeah.
Like he's going to bring you 150% every play of the game. He's probably going to get hurt. That's something that we can't avoid. Troy Hill's bringing us that depth in the rotation and just the spot that we needed. Like I said, like we talked about, in some other content that we're releasing later this week. MJ Stewart wasn't that bad throughout the year, but he wasn't great. And besides Denzel Ward, it was really nobody. I really like that that Andrew Berry brought him in accordance with John Johnson, 2 guys in the same defensive system. That's my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, you really have to look back at last year and the last couple games of the regular season. Of course, COVID being an unknown factor throughout the whole season, you couldn't predict that who was going to get contact tracing or who was actually going to get COVID. But towards the end of the season there, we were running with like number 3 guys, number 4 guys, number 5 guys at starting cornerback. Denzel was out. Greedy was out the whole season. Kevin Johnson was out part of the season. And you were running with Terrence Mitchell, who had a huge decline from last year. I think you watched him literally, the ball hit his hands and he dropped it. He's out of here now. Kevin Johnson's out of here now. Tavier Thomas, who, he was really great at making a tackle after his wide receiver caught the ball. I'm really up for, Troy Hill being here. I think he's going to slot in at that number 2 position just because of Greedy being injured and everything. But I wonder now, with all the departures, are they going to go what their move is for the draft and where they're going to select a cornerback? Because I don't think they're done there. And the one thing I can say is Troy Hill's great, but I've seen Malcolm Butler sign a $6 million deal for Arizona. Kind of upset me a little bit because I thought he was really good the past couple years in Tennessee and could have been slotted right next to Denzel Ward, which would have been a little bit better, in my opinion, than Troy Hill.
So Troy Hill signs with the Browns along with John Johnson. We talked about that, keeping that pair together. I agree with what you said, Jeff. That is, it's a very underrated move because when you have that communication and you can keep these guys together, Jalen Ramsey talked about the big pieces of that Rams defense with Aaron Donald himself, John Johnson, and he also talked about Troy Hill, about how he can trust the guy who was opposite of him. That's huge when you play in the secondary. If you can trust a guy to do his job, that frees you up to do your job. And I liked what you said about the draft. This is it's really interesting because it seems like Andrew Berry is saying, all right, I'm going to check everything off the list. Linebacker, Anthony Walker. Corner, Troy Hill. Safety, John Johnson. D-line even. You can go with Takk McKinley and Jackson. At 26 or higher or potentially lower, to me, I think they put themselves in a position to go best player available at whatever position it is. To me, I think they need to sign or draft another defensive end. I think it's a must. And what I mean by sign or draft, I mean first-round defensive end or sign a guy. What do you think about that option of, would you rather stick to free agency and bring in a Dunlap, bring in a Clowney, or potentially Ingram? I know he visited with the Chiefs today, or at least recently. Would you rather go with that route on a 1-year, 2-year deal, paying a decent chunk of change, or would you rather say, I'm going to go either trade up or I'm going to sit there at 26 and take the best defensive end available?
So what I would do, to be honest, I would do both those things. I would still go out and get somebody in free agency, and I would still draft somebody, just like Justin said. He's a future type guy, so you need to get somebody, fill that hole for the future, and bring somebody in that can start right away. So that's what I would do.
And with I don't mean to interrupt, but I just point this out, with a first round pick, you have that option of that extra year. So that's something to keep in mind.
Definitely.
Yeah, for me, I really look at the draft. I'm like Cam said, I'm a future guy. I'm also like, you'll see, and probably next year more so than this year, I'm really stingy about money. So like talking about Baker Mayfield getting an extension and Denzel Ward potentially getting an extension, I'm going to be talking about money a lot. But for right now, DN, it's really hard with this draft class because there's a drop off from the top 5 guys into the later back half of this group, but there's also a significant drop from the top 3 linebackers, which I still think needs to be addressed heavily. And so for me, you say at that 26 spot, you're not going to trade up. Andrew Berry's not going to trade up. I guarantee he will not do that. He won't give up assets to improve this team to trade up for any player unless somehow Micah Parsons falls out of the top 15, maybe, which would be ridiculous after watching his pro day and everything. But for me, we talked about it, Derek. I said Jeremiah Owosu is probably my number 1 guy right now, guy that can cover tight ends. We got to go through Travis Kelce's and George Kittle's, and we got to worry about what people are going to bring on our defense, because last year our corners and our DBs, when they were healthy, they played great coverage, but our linebackers, they were the reason we couldn't get off the field on third downs.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think I have a lame answer just because I'm not Andrew Berry, but I trust Andrew Berry. And usually when we talk about the Browns having options, it's kind of like, oh, we have the first overall pick, so we actually have like to pick from everyone. That's not the case this year, which is really good, but it's still the same. We have a first round pick. We still have guys that we're targeting in free agency, which this Clowney situation is very interesting to me because every move that Andrew Berry's made, at least of what I could remember, I don't know if he brought like other people in last year just to visit, but I feel like he knows he wants the guy, he goes and gets him. Clowney, we bring him in on this visit. It kind of seems like semantics. There must have been something very like hyper specific that Andrew Berry or someone in the organization wanted to talk to Jadeveon Clowney about, because that just hasn't happened. So that's making me skeptical about, well, if we really wanted him, we just would have got the job done. It would have been said and done. But I think just the versatility that we have in this draft, we could still sign someone and then we could go to the draft. I really like Azeez Ojulari. I really like trading up. I like trading up for Micah Parsons. I think it's unrealistic at best, but there has been some, scandals, real or fake, about Micah Parsons, that some things that have went on during Penn State. His draft stock might not be as good as, maybe some people think his market is going to be. I think I think you're crazy if he's not a top 15 pick, top 10 pick, even maybe. That might be a little aggressive, but 10 to 15 range for sure. I sent a clip to Justin last night of JC Horn, I believe his name is. Justin's
Beast.
Not a big fan of him.
Oh, I love him.
Derek said he's a beast. I literally watched 2 minutes of clips. I think he's a beast. There's a cornerback from Northwestern. His name's
Greg Newsome.
Greg Newsome. His pro day with stats were ridiculous. So many options. This draft I think it has a lot of hidden gems, and hidden gems are Justin's favorites.
Okay. With Greedy being not playing last year, how are you feeling about him coming back this year? What he has to bring to the team, and what can he stay on the field? What are your thoughts on Greedy? Are you expecting anything big from him? Anything?
If you want to hit this first.
You want me to go first?
I'm not expecting anything big, honestly, because we didn't even see him last year. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have not done my due diligence on Greedy Williams the past 2 to 3 weeks, because I just really haven't been interested. He's came out and talked about his injury. I haven't heard anything about it, really. I'll just admit that up front. I like this is smart Andrew Berry, big brain Andrew Berry play, though. He brings in Troy Hill. It's not like Greedy Williams is going to have a walk in the park to get back on the field. There's going to be competition. We're going to need him in a rotation, but it's not like he's missed his whole second season. He's still, cornerback number 2. That's not the case.
Definitely.
Derek, you want to take it?
Sure, I can take it. I was about as big of a fan of the draft of Greedy Williams as I think anybody was. I think my reaction is still out there. I'm just screaming like a madman. I think I still believe in Greedy. I don't know with this injury, what that's going to mean for his future. I still believe he has the talent, though. I like what he can bring. And what Andrew Berry has done is now you're going to see a lot of packages where you're going to have Denzel Ward and you're going to have Troy Hill with the 3 safeties on the field. But you're also going to have packages where you're going to have Denzel Ward, Troy Hill on the inside playing slot, and you're going to have Greedy on the outside with 2 safeties, however they want that to be. The question is, like we talked about, draft. Where do we go from here? I think if they take a corner in the first round, I think that tells you what they think about Greedy. They don't believe in him and they don't trust him. As far as his impact this year, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. If he can stay on the field, I think he will surprise people because his rookie year wasn't that bad. I mean, we talk about it like he sucked. He really didn't. It was just he wasn't on the field. Now, obviously, he has major improvements to make, but it wasn't as bad as people give him. So as far as his impact, if he can stay healthy and he can get on the field in that 3rd corner position in rotation, I think he can be very effective.
Yeah, for me, I was also a very big fan of the Greedy Williams pick, not having a 1st-round pick in that draft that year because of the Odell trade. To get Greedy was a huge value pick. It was, the best available option at that pick. The problem is with that type of injury with a nerve like ending, I guess it's what it is. It's kind of like he pinched a nerve and apparently lost like all feeling to his arm at one point, down all the way to his fingers and everything. The problem with Greedy playing the slot for me is I don't know that he's got the overall quickness to cover the guys in the slot. I think he's a great outside corner. And so maybe, in my opinion, Derek, maybe he's going to switch with Troy Hill. And I don't know. I feel like that's why he could compete for that starting position, the opposite side of Denzel. But it's hard because when I argue the fact about going out and signing a guy like Troy Hill, you've invested money into a guy like him by Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski's standards, whereas Greedy Williams was not a draft pick by this organization at that time. That was a John Dorsey pick. They have no, real attachment to him other than he's on the team right now. If he, comes back and he's quick enough, he's fast enough, he's kept up with everyone else on the field, he's going to get challenged every day in training camp. These guys are going to get challenged. There's Odell Beckham Jr., Rashard Higgins, Jarvis Landry, all these guys. They got to cover the tight ends. I mean, we're going to know by the end of training camp who the number 1 or the number 2 guy is, if it's Troy Hill or if it's Greedy Williams. I'm hoping that he finds a way to find that slot position in the dime or the nickel. But like you said, Joe Woods loves his safeties. We're going to have 3 safeties more than we're going to have 3 cornerbacks. So I think it's going to be tough for him to find the field on regular situations on 1st and 2nd downs. But I'm hoping with you, Derek, that, he comes back and he plays really well and he finds his way on the field.
So we talk about the lockdown on the lake, which is what they've been nicknamed, which I think is great. I was trying to come up with stuff, but I forget who tweeted that out. And I was like, that's it. Lockdown on the lake. So we talked about that. Now, you think Andrew Berry won't trade up. Here's my thing. The Browns have 2 3rd-round picks and 2 4th-round picks. When you have those extra assets, those are, we talk about 1st-round picks are the most valuable, which obviously they are. But there are teams where if you throw in an extra 4th, that can get the job done for some GMs around the league. I think we'll talk about this next. Odell Beckham Jr. There are still questions, regardless of where you stand. With these extra assets, do you think if the right guy happens to slip, for instance, I think I'm looking at a guy like Rondale Moore, who had an incredible pro day, who's kind of slid under the radar. A guy like Rashard Bateman potentially maybe slips into the top of the 2nd round. If Andrew Berry falls in love with one of those guys and they have these extra assets, do you see that being an option given the massive question mark on OBJ right now?
with Justin again, he's a future guy. So I mean, you gotta look at it. Odell and Jarvis, and they're not gonna be here forever. So you do gotta start trying to build this roster for the future, for when those guys aren't here. So yeah.
Yeah, to go along with that point with Cam, my answer really doesn't stem from what would they do in the draft. It's more of like, at this point in time right now, you know, I believe Odell's contract, he's secured through this year, next year, and potentially the year after. It's really hard to be like, yeah, I'm going to replace Odell with a rookie after you've seen what he's capable of. But there's also the added effect of you trade or you do anything that upsets Odell, in the sense of like, or not in the sense that you upset Odell. If you trade Odell away, what's Jarvis going to think? What's Jarvis going to have his headspace as? Because those two are brothers. Those dudes literally grew up together, played college ball. I think they played high school ball together. You know, they've done almost everything together. But, you know, I'm really on the side of, I'm hoping that the Odell, Baker, Jarvis connection, you know, really opens up this year. I hope the chemistry is there. I hope that Baker, you know, I really feel like the past 2 years, while Odell was healthy and everything, he really did force the ball to him a lot more. But, you know, once Odell came out, he really did spread it around. You saw the best version of Baker Mayfield last year once Odell went out. And it's not to say that he wouldn't have achieved that with Odell after those, you know, couple rain games that we had where, you know, it was hail and crazy windstorms. You know, that's really, after that point, he started to open it up a lot more. But for me, Derek, it's a great point in the draft. You get a lot of these fast dudes, and we don't have anyone. I don't think DPJ is actually a burner. I don't think, we all know Jarvis isn't a burner. He's great at making catches and everything. Higgins, great at route running and securing the ball, but we don't have a burner. And if you take Odell Beckham Jr. out of the equation, then you're really taking a chance. And with a team that you hope to be a Super Bowl contender, you look at the teams that were in the playoffs this year, they all have one guy that's a burner, one guy that's going to, you know, take the attention of corners and safeties over the top and kind of draw them to them. I think you need to hold on to Odell at this point.
Okay, so I got a couple points here. The burner, Justin talks about being a burner all the time. I don't think there's a specific way to build a team. I think we could get away with not having a burner just because our play action offense is so good. We got the two of the best running backs in the league. We have the best running back tandem in the league. Defenses are going to collapse on us with the play action. And we have good enough route runners and ball securers, like he said, that, you know, I think big plays really weren't our problem last year. I think we had a good amount of them. You could always have more, obviously, but I don't think that was our problem. I don't think offense was our problem. Everyone can agree with that. But I think I've changed my mind on the Odell Beckham Jr. situation. Until this free agency, I was all for getting rid of him. I really was. Now I think that we would be going backwards if we got rid of him. I think getting rid of him, I think Andrew Berry's not going to get rid of him because that would be an old Browns move to do. That would be the Browns move to do. I mean, we never had that type of star caliber when, you know, we were 0-16, 1-15. But I mean, I just think moving on from a guy that he put his neck out for us in the sense of the word, you know, he wanted to come here with Jarvis and we took a chance on him. I don't see it. Trading up for Micah Parsons is the only situation where I would think about it now based off of this free agency. But I think we built a culture here that's just, even though OBJ hasn't really been a part of the success, he's still been a part of it. I don't think that if Baker's forcing him the ball still, you know, that's still going to be a problem. It will be. We've known it's been a problem. And I think everybody could agree that Baker Mayfield has played his best football when Odell Beckham Jr. isn't on the field. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think Andrew Berry holds on to him.
Okay. Now let me guys ask you a question. How would you feel about, offensive line is always going to be a major priority for this team. How would you feel? You see Andrew Berry, taking a lineman in the later rounds. How would you see that going?
I think they need to add. I think they got guys like Nick Harris and Blake Hance. I think those are good guys to have. Drew Forbes is still on the roster. I think what they
I
need,
forgot about Drew Forbes.
yeah, what they need is these tackles who can kind of be versatile. I really do like. His name's escaping me. I can literally see his face. You know who I'm talking about though. Played for the Steelers.
Chris Hubbard.
Chris
Yeah,
Hubbard. There
Chris
you go.
Hubbard.
Chris Hubbard. I really like Chris Hubbard, and I'd like to keep him around. I've had the chance to actually talk to him on occasion. He's a really good dude. I like him a lot, and I like what he can bring as a backup kind of role player. But I think they need to draft. I would look specifically left tackle. Probably somewhere like 5th, 6th round, 7th round. If there's a guy that you think projects really well with your system and the type of offense you want to run in this, zone run, play action type scheme, I think that would be the way to go there. If there's not that guy, then I would just stay away from it because, like I said, I think you have those 3-4 guys that you can kind of rely on from the backup role. So that's my thoughts.
I think it's a shame that Kendall Lamb, ended up signing with the Titans. I really liked him before his touchdown against the Titans. I really liked him replacing Jedrick and occasionally Conklin. But Hubbard's a great player. He's such a, I think Kevin Stefanski said it in one of his, he's a utility player. He could literally play every position on that offensive line. And the way that Coach Callahan, my goodness, the dude had random people, guys coming in the day of the game to play offensive line for Baker Mayfield and protect Baker Mayfield. And this man coached them up to task. And I mean, it's just a great idea. I think it's a given that we're going to probably draft maybe 1 or 2 offensive linemen, probably a guard and probably a tackle because of Kendall Lamb leaving, and probably the fact that in a couple years you might need to replace either Teller's going to be a costly guy. We'll see what happens with him. Hopefully we can retain him, but you gotta coach up the next guy. So I'm thinking 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think Hubbard's really good. Like Justin said, couldn't have said it any better. I love Kendall Lamb. I'll be a Kendall Lamb fan forever, just because of what he did, like in his role. That's just a guy you need on your team. He really was just a guy that was awesome to have around. I think we'll need at least one guy to replace him as that swing guard. But just bringing in young guys like you guys have been talking about this whole time for the future. I think the offensive line is the best sector of our team. It was last year. I think it probably has a even better chance to be the best portion of our team this year, just because they've had experience playing with each other. Jedrick just played a full year in a position that he hasn't played in who knows how long on the other side of the ball. So, that's not even his normal position. So I think it's good to bring in new guys to teach and coach up for the future of the franchise.
And again, these are the Cleveland Pulse podcast, guys. Be sure to go check them out once again. Last question here. Let's take a look around the AFC North with free agency. So far, to me, the Steelers and the Ravens have gotten, I don't know if it's a stretch to say way worse, but you look at the Steelers, they lose Bud Dupree. They lose, some of these guys. They just released Steven Nelson. Then you look at Baltimore, and they lose Judon, and they lose all of these guys. It just seems to be adding up more and more and more. The Bengals, are they improving? Sure, but they're spending a lot of money, $60 million on Trey Hendrickson, who's had one good year. The Browns, I think, have taken a massive jump, even from last season, 11-5. You get to the playoffs, you get a win. That's a massive improvement from 6-10. I think they've really taken that next jump. What do you think the AFC North looks like next year with so far? Obviously, we haven't hit the draft yet, but so far, based on what these 4 teams have done, what do you think the AFC North is going to look like next year? Do you think it's a lock that the Browns are AFC North champs?
When I see this division, I see this as Browns or Ravens can take it. I don't really see the Steelers making too much noise or the Bengals yet, but I think this is going to be a head Browns and Ravens division. And I think the Browns can take it, you know. We build that defense up. We keep grinding the play action in the run game. And I think we'll win the division.
For me, it's really satisfying to see how the Steelers have collapsed. It's super satisfying. Like, my goodness, just I was at the game. Myles Garrett helmeted Mason Rudolph. I won't lie to you. I smiled. I laughed. It was a good time. To see them kind of fall off, for me, they're sitting at 4th right now. Bringing back Ben Roethlisberger, adding Dwayne Haskins, Mason Rudolph, that's your quarterback group. That's your quarterback core. It's not a lot of good there. Offensively, they got Juju and they got Chase Claypool. I guess they're all right. They got to figure something out at running back. They got guys leaving, though, like you said, Derek, left and right. That offensive line's decimated. The defense is decimated. At this point, with what the Bengals have been doing, I'm not a huge fan of what they've been doing, but at least they've been doing something.
They're trying.
It might be Steelers at the bottom of the AFC North with the Bengals at 3rd. I just don't know what we're going to get with the Bengals. We don't know what's going to happen with Joey Burrow. A significant injury like that, it's, for how he was playing the game at quarterback, he relied on running a lot. And it's not because his offensive line was as bad as everyone says. He caused a lot of his own problems if you watch his game. But we'll see how he improves, how he recovers from that injury. But like Cam said, it's going to be a battle between, both games this year for the Browns versus Ravens should be primetime games. That Thursday night game, I went to it. It was by far, we lost that game. It was by far the best game to watch all season.
Are you talking about Monday night?
Was it Monday night?
The Browns Ravens? Yeah.
Yeah. I apologize. I thought it was Thursday night for some reason. But it was, oh my goodness, it was such a tough game to watch defensively. I'm a defensive guy. It was a tough game to watch defensively. But for me, I think it's pretty easy. I think the Browns are going to come off on top. I just think that offensively, we've been settled. We've got everything settled down. They've got everything settled down on offense too. They got a great running back. They got a great quarterback. They need to get a wide receiver. We'll see what they do about that. Their offensive line continues to improve. But defensively, I don't know that, we've improved so much now that if we get a few stops, who's to say that they won't be able to stop us though? I don't think that we get on the field. I feel like it's going to be hard this whole season for teams to, get us off the field defensively. So I think at the end of the season, I'll say it right now, it's going to be my hot take. It's going to be my bold prediction. We have a hard schedule this year, but I'm going to say we improve. We go 12-4 and we win the AFC North.
Okay, so I'm going to go from boring to most exciting. The Ravens, I think we know the Ravens. Their defense got worse this offseason. It has. They have, with the draft still to come, all this commentary with the draft still around the corner, of course, in Cleveland. How about that? Awesome. And it's, we don't have the first pick, like I said earlier, so even better. But the Ravens, their defense has gotten worse. I think depending on the draft, and even right now, I would imagine that the Ravens are the front runner to win the division. This is not me saying this. This is just what I think, betting heads would have the Ravens favored only because of Lamar Jackson. He's never had, he hasn't had weapons in his career. They have J.K. Dobbins, which is interesting, Ohio State boy who played great last year. They're going to unleash him this year. I think he's going to be a savage.
Definitely.
If they get a wide receiver though, their offense could be. It's already scary, but their tight ends give us problems. If they get a wide receiver, I think then it gets interesting. The Bengals, like Derek was alluding to, they're getting better, but they're getting better in the wrong places. They needed offensive linemen, and they need like a running back too. Like Joe Mixon's good, but he's injury prone too, it seems like. And they lost AJ Green, which isn't saying a whole lot. They have young pieces over there, and they have Joe Burrow, who he should be a stud. So I think they got better, but not in the places where they didn't get better in the highest rate of return places. If they could have, got a nice pocket for Burrow, I think that could have went a long way besides signing Trey Hendrickson, who we have our thoughts on him. I was watching his 13 or 12 and a half sack highlights last night. Nothing very special there for the money they paid him. Ridiculous. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm not even worried about them losing players in the sense of the thing. They lost however many snaps on defense. Awesome. I think we could all agree that's awesome. The culture shift. I go.
Okay, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. Unfortunately, Zoom at the very end cut it. So yeah, if you watched all the way to the end, thank you. Basically, just wrapping it up. We just finished up talking about the AFC North and how the Browns are getting a lot better. Bengals are trying to get better, and the Steelers and the Ravens are getting worse in all four of our opinions. So it kind of cuts off there at the end, basically just wrapping up, just saying thank you guys for the support. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think. Go check them out at the Cleveland Pulse podcast on YouTube. I'll be sure to link it. But yeah, so it kind of cut off there at the end, but that's pretty much what it was. So I thought I'd just make this quick explanation of why it just kind of dropped. So I don't know what the problem was. It's just a Zoom thing. So thanks for watching, and we'll